it's a very interesting story. I didn't actually know this, but under current law, which dates back to the 19th century, if you've had a window that has natural light coming into it for over 20 years, you actually have a legal right to maintain that. And I'm sure all of us have been part of the neighbourhood scandals in the village where I grew up. We certainly had a few. You know, so-and-so wants to put on a conservatory or an extension, and my right to light is going to be, somehow discriminated against. So people are saying this is a good thing because they want natural light, but then developers are saying it's actually holding them back from healthy development. So it's really a kind of a war between who gets what. But personally, I think it's a very important thing. If you've got sunlight coming into your house, you want to keep it. So
But also, perhaps the new developments aren't getting the light they should do as a result of this.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a pretty doomsday scenario where no one gets any light.
We're all
It's
in the
a bit
dark.
apocalyptic.
Totally.
I have to say, I have some sympathy with the lawmakers who've suggested this, because at the moment, it's impossibly expensive to move house. We all know that. And so the idea that actually, if you have an extra kid, you have an extra room, you want to put an extension on your house, it seems to me much more sensible if it's not going to interrupt too much. Like you do that rather than have the upheaval of having to move house somewhere else. So actually, and the other thing is, this isn't going to happen necessarily. It's a recommendation to government. The government has got to go through the planning process. I mean, my goodness me. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people complaining about it.
Ollie, I'd be interested in your thoughts on the story of the Hilary Mantel attack on the Duchess of Cambridge, which personally I just thought was totally vicious and uncalled for.
I mean, so the way the newspapers have painted it, there's some incredibly powerful choice quotes they've taken out. I think you mentioned some of them. I think shop window mannequin without character, painfully thin. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I mean, she was trying to, I think, explain that in order to be a member of the royal family or to marry into the royal family, I think you have to sort of lose some character is the sort of suggestion. That's something that historically has happened with previous men and women who've married into the royal family.
People at home, though, disagree. I mean, Kate comes across as very warm, doesn't she? And emotional and giving, and
actually being
she's got a lot of personality.
Well, do you know what? I'm not sure warm is the word I use. I'd say incredibly professional, and she's sort of taken to it like a duck to water. But I think that's quite clever. I think, she's only been a member of the royal family for, not much more than a year or two now, although she's been involved with it in wider circles for much longer. And I think, actually, if she's going to be successful, she needs to play safe and let people like her, let people project an image onto her that they think they see in her. Because at the moment, we don't really know too much about her. And actually let her develop as a character over the next
There's
sort of 5
nothing though about
10
saying
years.
being professional and playing safe, but I mean, that is very personal, and I would have thought
Yes,
a very
I actually
unkind
think it's kind
attack.
of an attack on a certain kind of woman, because I'm a passionate feminist, but I also believe that beauty is great, and there's no problem with wanting to look nice. And I think she's actually being targeted as kind of anti-women, anti-feminist, the thing that we shouldn't want to become, this kind of doll. But actually, she's just expressing her own preference to want to look nice.
Or perhaps, as you touched on, Ollie, it's the role, because free of the shackles that William and Kate have are Pippa and Harry, and we see a lot more personality from them, don't we? Let's just move on to this next story, why piano lessons are not actually the key to learning. Vicky, can you just expand on this?
Yeah, I began piano lessons at the age of 6, and they were quite a
grade
grueling experience. I actually passed my grade 1 by 1 mark.
Okay.
And
just grade 1.
But, well, I thought I'd better stop there, to be honest. I actually did carry on with music as a hobby, but I can't actually read any music. But my mum and dad told me piano lessons were a good idea because they really help you kind of at school, into general IQ boosting, and they help you kind of develop conscientiousness, the ability to practice. And it's being attacked in a new bunch of research coming out of the University of Toronto. And they're saying, actually, there's no correlation, that it's not actually related to IQ. So all these poor parents cashing out all this money, and they're actually saying that the real reason is that these children come from more privileged backgrounds, families that can afford piano lessons, and therefore that's actually the reason. So
It still makes you the most popular person at a party. At 2 in the morning when you can bash out a bit of Elton John or something.
With 2 fingers.
I think it does.
I think grade 6, but my O levels were appalling.
I'm playing guitar, rock and roll. Right, let's just finish
Have a
on
little jam at
talking
some
rock and
point.
roll. Let's talk about Fatboy Slim. It's actually not Fatboy Slim, it's Boy